Welcome back to Choirwire, the podcast keeping music educators connected to the art of teaching. I'm Alex, your host. Today we're diving into a topic that's close to the heart of every conductor: expressive singing. We all know the moment. The choir is technically solid, notes, rhythms, entrances, all locked in, but there's something missing. The music feels flat, safe, like it's wearing a tuxedo but forgot its soul. It's a really bad analogy. It just feels boring. So how do we teach expressive singing, not just as a final polish, but as a daily habit? Let's unpack that. Expressive singing isn't just about dynamics and phrasing. It's about emotional ownership. It's the difference between singing at the audience and singing to them, between performing a piece and living inside it. And here's the kicker. Expressive singing isn't reserved for advanced choirs or concert week. It's teachable. It's buildable. It's something we can cultivate from day one in all of our singers. Let's talk about tools. Here are 5 rehearsal strategies that you can use to help students sing with heart, not just technique. Before singing, have students underline emotionally charged words in the text. Ask them, what's the emotional arc of this piece? Where does it shift? This builds awareness and intention. Almost treat your class like an English class, and I think about what is the apex of this phrase. Stuff like that. Use playful analogies. Sing it like you're telling a secret. Sing it like you're comforting a friend. Sing it like you're casting a spell. These unlock tone, color, and emotional nuance, especially for Gen Z singers who thrive on metaphor. I've also learned from one of our area voice teachers the technique of using attitude cards. On the cards, you put whatever attitude you'd like the singers to sing with. Now, she's got a multitude of cards. I think she's got about 60 cards on there. But it could be sad, happy, excited, elated. Whatever degree of emotion you want the students to demonstrate, you write those terms on the card. Have students sing a phrase while watching themselves in a mirror or a phone camera. And ask them, does your face match the emotion of the music? It's awkward at first, but powerful. I definitely did this last year, and I bought individual hand mirrors. And here's why. Number 1, it was also to help with vowel matching, but also to allow students to see their faces and understand what my director and I were seeing, the kind of feedback that we were giving them, because we'd be like, it's boring. You're not giving enough. You're not giving us the emotional attachment that we need physically and facially. And they'd be like, look, I'm doing enough, and it's not enough. So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy these individual mirrors, also bought from Amazon, but it definitely helped. Before I run through, ask, what emotion are you channeling in this piece today? Let students choose grief, joy, nostalgia, hope. This gives them agency and deepens the connection. Ooh, and this is one of my favorites. Even your warm-ups can teach expressivity. Try decrescendo, crescendo with emotional prompts, even just on a simple vocalese. Sing it like you're angry or like you're in love. Call and response with expressive gestures. When asked what helps students sing expressively, students often say, knowing what the song means to them personally, talking about the story behind the lyrics, being allowed to move while singing, it helps them feel it more. The common thread here, meaning, story, movement. These aren't extras, these are essentials. Expressive singing thrives in a culture of emotional safety and artistic ownership. Consider these reflection questions. Do students feel emotionally safe in rehearsal? Is expressive singing modeled consistently? Are emotional risks celebrated, not just vocal precision? When these conditions are present, expressive singing becomes second nature, not just for solos, but for the entire ensemble. I remember there was one moment back when I was teaching middle school, and this was not my intention, but I wanted my students to feel. I think it was a moment of me being vulnerable, and I'm not quite sure what story I told them at the time, but I definitely used a vulnerable moment there. And I was very nervous to present this to them, but it definitely helped. It helped them channel their emotions about the song. I told a story about someone that I loved. It was probably a family member, or the kind of love that I have for that family member. And we talked about, loss and all that fun stuff. Not really fun, but whatever the song was, I don't remember exactly, but it was something about loss and love. And that definitely helped channel those students and their emotions. Was there a lot of tears after that conversation? Yes. Did it help? Yes. So I would say choose your options wisely. If you have a class that's emotionally able to handle that, go for it. But if you don't have a class that's emotionally able to handle it, I would not choose that as a way to connect with them emotionally. It was my advanced class. Of course, I would not do that with a beginning class. Not that deep anyway. But it definitely helped with channeling the emotions for the piece that we were singing. In Florida, we have lots of great music educators, but this one specific music educator that we're about to hear from today is one that number one, he's one of my good friends. But number two, his choirs are just phenomenal. And they always bring the house down. They've performed at national ACDAs. They performed at Southern ACDAs, state ACDAs. They are a legend in the state of Florida and just around the nation. And I respect this colleague and friend so much just because we are on the same wavelength with expressive singing and making sure our students are singing with heart and passion always. Please welcome our special guest to Choirwire, Jorge Valls. Hey, George, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, just fighting the good fight every single day,
As we all are, my friend.
Of course, yes. Well, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today talking about expressive singing. And George, I want you to tell us a little bit about your experience and your career, because you are one of those rock stars out there, those choral rock stars, and I want people to know about you. So,
Well, thank you so much. Thank you again for even having me on here. I am currently in my 11th year of teaching, and this is my 8th year of teaching at Bach Middle School of the Arts. Before Bach, I taught at Eagles Landing Middle School, which is a school in Boca Raton, and that program started with about 75 singers, and in 3 short years, it grew to about 200 singers. So,
wow, amazing.
yeah, I've been teaching now for 11 years, and I love it.
Well, like I said, George is a choral rock star, and he doesn't like to brag on himself, but his students have done quite a bit and have sung at every ACDA convention, right? Every conference.
No,
almost every conference.
not
You've
every conference, but we have sung at several conferences.
Yes, several conferences. Yes, so they are amazing and just such amazing, beautiful performances every single time I get to hear them sing. And that's just why I wanted you to get on and talk to our Choirwire community today, just because I know what you had done at Eagles Landing and then going to Bach, 2 different schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
2
totally different schools. Yeah.
Yeah, different schools and different is it different population too?
Different population, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but you just done such great work at either of those schools, and I really am just proud to know you. So
thank you. I'm proud to know you too, my friend.
Yeah. Oh. Well, let's get into these questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, when you're introducing a new piece, how do you help students connect emotionally to the music from the very first rehearsal?
So, to be honest, I feel like I can do a better job doing that from the very first rehearsal. But I think in ways ways or techniques that I have used when I do that for every song consistently. I definitely always start with a recording of the piece that I find inspirational that I'd want to share with the kids so that they can just get a context of what the piece sounds like, what it's about, and maybe giving them some ideas on how it can connect to them. And then I definitely like to have them read the text aloud as well. So sometimes I'll do like a little pair share with their buddy and just read through the text and see what are some things in the text that you can relate to, or what are some words or things that stick out to you, so that when we start the music, when we're doing our phrasing and things like that, even when we're teaching solfege, there's things that we know, there's certain words we might want to emphasize, or maybe we don't want to breathe here because when we're telling this story, we just feel like that works for the music. So I think, doing that when you're starting a piece is really important because you're talking about the meaning while still talking about just the musical elements about it, learning solfege. How are we going to phrase to this note? But why should we do that? In this text, this word fits here. So I find that that's something that I've done to help them, maybe connect to the piece. If it's an upbeat piece, we're always moving. Putting it in the body, I feel, is super important as well. Just connecting to that. And sometimes, and this is not to just one piece in particular, but maybe even in our warm-ups, just practicing our expression and saying, hey, sing this warm-up happy, and then yell out sad, and then they do the different facial expressions, and then okay, which songs are we going to use some of these expressions with? So I'd say that's how I kind of build expression and all of that within just the process in general. So I try to do a better job of doing it from the first rehearsal, though.
Yeah, I mean, but even still, just to have that start, from the first rehearsal, and like you said, putting that into the warm up as well, because I feel like you can say to your students, or anybody could say, sing that sad or sing it with more emotion, but if they've not had the experience with that, if they've not had any time to practice it, then they're not going to know how to do it. So that's so smart to do it in the warm-up. Can you describe a moment when a student or ensemble surprised you with their emotional delivery, something that maybe they went beyond the technique?
Definitely. And it's funny because this was so out of the blue. We were in the middle of the week. Our chorale choir was preparing for their Southern Region performance, and it was an after-school rehearsal, a very long day. Didn't expect anything. We were singing in a circle around the piano, and we were working on Where the Light Begins by Susan LeBar.
I love that one.
Love that piece. And it's so funny because we were just on solfege, just singing it on solfege in a circle. Everyone's moving their body, just feeling the music as they are. Each person just thinking about what it is, even though we're on solfege, no text.
Yeah.
And you just see, my accompanist was there for the first time joining in with us. And it was just such a magical moment that we were moved to tears. Like half the choir was crying and we weren't even on words. I was like, what is happening? And we just stopped and we looked at each other and we're like, wow, that's the power of music.
Yeah.
You didn't even need words. We were just together and we just felt how beautiful that moment was. And to be honest, I don't think it was ever as beautiful as that one moment that we had together in the classroom.
Yeah. Wow. But that's something that you built, it's something that they felt comfortable and safe enough to even go there,
Yeah, to me, it was one of my favorite moments of teaching.
Oh, that's
just
beautiful.
To feel that, from the heart.
What strategies have you found most effective for helping students move past self-consciousness and sing with vulnerability? Because I know, from teaching middle school, it's so hard to get them to want to be vulnerable or understand what it means to be vulnerable. And then, teaching in high school, it's even worse. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I think first and foremost, creating a classroom environment where the students feel comfortable to be who they are. And like you said in one of your previous podcasts, of just building that inclusivity. I just think it's so important Because if these kids don't feel comfortable with being who they are, then how are they going to feel vulnerable enough to express themselves through music? And so I think also modeling a lot as a teacher. Like I make mistakes all the time, and I'm just always like, "Oops, sorry, that was me. That was me." And then that makes them comfortable enough to be like, "You know what? I made a mistake." And or even just I act crazy with them. You know, I'm silly along with them just because I show them, look, I don't care. This is who I am. You shouldn't really care what other people think. And you know, we're all in this together, building something greater than ourselves. And you know, you kind of sometimes have to put yourself and your insecurity out of it, and that's hard in middle school because they're all trying to find themselves. And I think having classroom discussions about that from time to time, you know, sometimes if I find an inspirational quote and I just like bring it up in class at the end of the day or on a Friday, you know, and or just even sharing positivity about one another. I do positive vibes Fridays, and we just all share positive vibes about people in the classroom. And I think that's just only the first step of having them find comfort in just being who they are. And then after that, I one thing that I definitely find very helpful is putting something in writing, like create a writing prompt that goes along with the song that you're working on. Because I feel like sometimes when they have that space to just write and they don't feel like anyone is judging them, you know, you can do it anonymously or they can write their name on it. But when they have that moment to write how they feel and really process what they're thinking, and sometimes you'll get the occasional silly response or something like that. But it still brings up so much emotion that you didn't really know these kids had. And when when you share that as a group, you know, you walk, you know, read it, you collect it and then you read them anonymously or something like that, and everyone else hears what other people are thinking. They're like, wow, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And I think that to me has been the most powerful tool to have kids find the comfort of being just expressive and kind of overcoming that insecurity with it, you know?
Well, all of this has been so good. And I feel like if I were a beginning teacher, like that would be something that would be one of my first things that I would go to would be the journaling. Of course, developing all that, you know, culture and comfortability and all that stuff, community in the classroom first before saying, hey, take out this sheet of paper and let's write. But I feel like these are such great tools that you've given them. What kind of advice would you give to a beginning teacher, or let's say someone who might have seen your choir perform and they're like, wow, how do I get my choir to that point of being able to give that much emotionally on the stage? Like, where would you start them at square one? Would it be something that you would suggest to the teacher themselves, or like would it be, because you talked about the journaling, but is there like a step one, like before you do any of that stuff, that you would suggest?
I think sometimes the magic of it all is finding repertoire that you think the kids could connect with, in addition to, you know, just being an example for the kids and showing them through you as a teacher, not being afraid to push them to their limits or fostering conversations and connections, but finding repertoire that has text that the kids your age could relate to. Because when you find something like that, I find that it's very helpful for them to just get excited about music and get excited about singing. And it could even be something that is true to what they're interested in today, you know, some pop music or something, you know, some things like that, not just choral music. But, you know, when I was at Eagles, every warm up I was stretching, I'd play music that they like. So current day would be K-pop Demon Hunters, you know, you would definitely play that. And then these kids would be like, wow, this teacher can relate to the music that I like. And then you show them, hey, I know I like your music too, but let's try this. Let's do this. And it kind of just gives them permission to go outside of what they're used to. Because think about it, a lot of these kids nowadays, they're so confined in their music language and vocabulary, and they're not getting the same experiences that maybe we had when we were younger. And so trying to relate to them and where they're at today in such a high pace and different society, and bringing them to, hey, let's learn to, I love this music, I relate to you with this music, but let's try to even explore other things and find within that how it could connect with your kids. I think that's definitely an important step.
That is on the money right there. And I feel like that's even some advice that, people that have experience could probably need to hear. Kids are different than what they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You can't expect them to be the same as they were back then. Like we had a prompt the other day for our question of the day about what kind of music would be playing during your soundtrack to your movie or whatever, like what genre of music would be playing for it. Like if it was the soundtrack to George, like what kind of music would be playing. And we heard some eclectic things. We heard some really cool things. And I think that, thinking about how I was raised and what I was listening to, it's way different. And so like just being able to connect with them, number one, first, you're so right on the money with that, because how are you going to sell anything to them if they don't trust you?
Right.
How are they going to be able to properly connect with the piece if they don't connect with you, number one? So I think that's so important.
Like to what you said, I play games with my kids. You have all those icebreakers in the beginning of the year, but you throw in games, you act silly with them, and then they're like, wow, if he could be that way, it's okay for me to be that way.
Right. All of this was so good, George, and excited to hear your choirs at some point again and watch them be amazing. And well, thank you again, George, for chatting with me today. It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And I love this podcast. I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Fran. Thank you. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Choirwire. Thank you to special guest Jorge Valls. Here's a challenge for you. Choose one piece currently in rehearsal. Select a strategy from today's episode: lyric mapping, metaphor, prompts, mirror moments, and implement it. Then ask your students, did that help you feel more connected to the music? Their responses can help guide the next steps. If today's episode sparked ideas, or even if there are expressive singing strategies worth sharing, reach out anytime. Tag me at Choirwire or send me a DM. Until next time. If Choirwire has added a little harmony to your rehearsal week or sparked something new in your planning, consider supporting the show. Just head on over to choirwire.buzzsprout.com to help support. No pressure, just a simple way to keep the ideas flowing and the episodes coming. I have ideas of expanding the show past my small platform. Thank you for all you do, and thanks for being part of this community.